Good morning, everyone. My name is Borja Lopetegui Gonzalez. I'm the head of communications of the International Solar Alliance. I hope that you enjoyed your coffee. It's always good to have some time to connect, rest, and get ready for the inspiring conversations ahead. It is a pleasure to welcome you back for a segment that holds a very unique place in the heart of the International Solar Alliance. The Solar Technology Application Resource Center, or STARC, and its sister initiative, the Solar Global Capability Center, or GCC. These two initiatives prove that knowledge transfer works in the field. Impact is real. From the first STAR Center that was inaugurated in Ethiopia, but also to some other examples, such as Somalia, countries that are facing difficult and adverse circumstances. Star Center is doing well. How? Through different forms. Sometimes training technicians and engineers that will be spearheading the solar race in their countries, also guiding solar entrepreneurs in the field, or even training government officials so that they can adapt the legislation and make solar investment a reality in their countries, in their markets. Through Star Center and the GCC, we are betting on long term development, and for this, we need joint hands. The Star Center, combined with the digital strength of the Global Capability Center, can build the skills, the systems, and the confidence needed to accelerate the solar movement, especially, as you know, in the least developed countries and small island development states where the supply of electricity is not taken for granted and is sometimes too pricey. This being said, let's get down to work. I will now hand it over to Mr. Ashish Khanna, Director General of the International Solar Alliance, which will be followed by a keynote address by Monsieur Christophe Yvetot, UNIDO representative. Then we will listen to Mr. Felipe Saliba, Chief of the KMID unit within the International Solar Alliance. And then we will jump into a very dynamic panel discussion led by Mr. Benjamin Clark on green jobs and the new skills that are necessary to accelerate the energy transition. Finally, Mr. Paul Butin will do the concluding remarks. Mr. Kanda, over to you.
Thank you, Borja, and a very warm welcome to all of you here. And I can see Mrs. Tripta Thakur. Thank you so much for joining remotely. As some of you know, the aspect of building skills is often and probably the most binding constraint, especially in low-income countries and small island countries. And we are very proud of our Star C program as one of the most important initiatives to fulfill that gap. We are also extremely thankful to European Union, France, and Denmark for being financial and technical partners, and UNIDO for a very deep technical partnership on this program. As you will see today, and some of you who saw yesterday in our RCM on the vision strategy, we are now operationalizing Star C in 10 countries, going to 16 by end of 2025, as a national centers of excellence in each of these 16 countries, where the teams are now working together with UNIDO, ISA, and all the partner countries in mainstreaming our offerings across all the national centers of excellence, rather than have separate mechanisms for different funding partners. And just a last bit I will say, if you not heard it yesterday, our vision is much bigger, of not only making them streamlined in terms of their offerings, have financial sustainability, but also as spokes connect to some form of a digitized global capability center that will be set up in India. So it's extremely ambitious, building on the huge success that we already having. And I really look forward to very fruitful discussions. Thank you very much.
Mr. Christophe Yvetot.
Good morning, bonjour, namaste. I'm just Excellencies, distinguished delegates from international partners, the private sector, science, and civil society. I'm just coming back from Nice in France, where you have the United Nations Ocean Conference. And I can tell you that this question of energy, solar energy, is a key component, of course, of both the climate and ocean agenda. So I'm sure that the discussion we have today are particularly important. We had a discussion with governments, the private sector, civil society. Until yesterday, my colleagues are still there to discuss and negotiate. But we're almost, there are already 50 countries have supported the new treaty, BBNJ, as we call it. And we hope by tomorrow, maybe 60 will have committed, so the treaty will come into force. But what we discussed, what we saw, is then from the words and the treaty and negotiation, which are indispensable, you need to move to action. And what is missing, particularly as we said in many poorest countries, is the capacity also and the capacity also to attract the private sector for the big deployment around the world. So that was a few words of what I could feel after coming back from UNOC 3. First and foremost, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the International Solar Alliance for organizing this important event and for our long-standing partnership on the TARSI program. In this context, I would like to warmly thank the governments of France, India, Denmark, and the European Union for their generous financial support to date. This event comes at the pivotal moment that reinforces ESA's effort to accelerate the global energy transition by advancing the adoption of solar technologies. These technologies are not only central to renewable energy strategies, but also represent critical solutions for closing the energy excess gap in many emerging markets. Allow me to take a moment to reflect on UNIDO's role in the energy transition. As a specialized agency of the United Nations, we are mandated to promote sustainable and inclusive industrial development in line with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Particularly, we support the Global South to implement SDG 9 on industry, innovation, and infrastructure, but also we contributed very much to establish the SDG 7 on sustainable energy. So our energy portfolio is strongly centered on addressing the energy industry climate nexus. We have big initiative, global, on what we call industrial deep decarbonation initiative. We have also many activities to support industrial decarbonation, including hard-to-abate sectors as cement, concrete, steel, and transport. Before the UNOC 3, there was the Blue Economy Finance Forum, and I could discuss with the chair of the actual association of 200 port and cities, former Prime Minister of France, Edouard Philippe, and I talked to him how to even strengthen the collaboration to include those 250 ports and cities into our global efforts. So at the same time, we foster a just transition to renewable energy, unlock opportunities for productive users, local manufacturing, and service economies throughout the Global South. In this regard, the STARSI program, with its emphasis on building a network of national solar centers of excellence, plays a pivotal role. By advancing quality infrastructure, skill development, entrepreneurship, and innovation, it contributes meaningfully to solar-driven industrial development and inclusive market creation. Over recent years, we have been proud to support the STARSI journey, particularly through our global network of regional sustainable energy centers. You know, this network is there. No need to, to rebuild it. You can just use it. It's at the service of the international community. Together, we have developed regional quality frameworks for solar energy products and services, alongside certified training programs across West and East Africa, the Pacific Islands, and beyond, equipping local professionals with the technical expertise and institutional capacity needed to build, maintain, and expand solar energy systems sustainably and at scale. I was based for 5 years in Senegal, for example, in West Africa, covering a part of West Africa. But when you have private investors in the solar energy who wants to penetrate the market, but they have 15 closed markets, how is it possible to really do business? But if you have, like the center we have established, ECRE, in West Africa, that works with the ministries of energy and harmonize the rules around the market to create a single market on the model of the EU. For investors, of course, you have then a big market of 15 countries instead of closed markets, fragmented markets, and we can do that in all regions. Furthermore, we have worked jointly to strengthen national, regional, and international partnerships aimed at accelerating solar energy market uptake, while also exploring innovating financing solutions to unlock new investment opportunities to drive inclusive growth. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm especially pleased to highlight that today marks a key milestone in our partnership with ISA on the StarSea program. Looking ahead to 2030 and maybe beyond, our shared ambition is to significantly expand the StarSea network to many more ISA member states. In this context, we welcome and commend the European Union for its recent announcement to support the StarSea program as the flagship initiative under the EU-India Trilateral Cooperation Program. This support is instrumental in scaling up the program reach and impact. We look forward to deepening our collaboration with ISA and the EU to sustainably operationalize the Star Centers as vital hubs for knowledge exchange, capacity building, standardization, and entrepreneurship development. Distinguished delegates, let us continue to pursue innovative approaches such as StarSea to drive meaningful progress. Looking ahead, multilateralism combined with South-South and triangular cooperation will remain critical to ensuring a just and inclusive energy transition, particularly for countries in the Global South. I extend my heartfelt thanks to all our partners for making this event, and especially this session, a reality. Just before closing, I hope it was not too long, but just to say that UNIDO, we have an office here since 2006 to work with the European Union. Together with the European Union, we're working in more than 100 countries around the world to do this work that we want to do together. India also is an important member state of UNIDO, and we're so honored and happy to work with ISA and maybe to build a strong ISA, UNIDO, EU, France, Denmark, and many EU member states and others to really support our common endeavors. So I wish you fruitful and forward-looking discussions. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Yvetot. Thank you for voicing UNIDO's vision of the collaboration with the International Solar Alliance. I was equally grateful to UNIDO for the seamless collaboration together. Now we will listen to Mr. Felipe Saliba, Chief of the KMID unit at ISA, who will take us through a comprehensive presentation.
Thank you, Barjan. Thank you, Mr. Kana. Thank you very much, Mr. Christophe Yvetot. And thank you, everybody, for joining this session today. Today, we are going through in more details as a continuity of the presentation we have done yesterday. We gave an overview about what the Star Center is about and what we foresee as priority to reinforce the sustainability of our network and connecting with our flagship project, which is the Global Capability Center. I will not take a lot of time and open the discussions very quickly. I think all of you that was here yesterday, you understood what the Star Center is about. But I would like to share a quick video that shows what we have done up to now, with a small taste what we want to do in the future. I also would like to thank Dr. Tripta online from India, which is working with us from NPTI organization. One of our main priorities is to strengthen the local leadership program in the STAR centers. We believe that the sustainability of these centers, after 2 years of financing support, will depend directly from the capability of having strong business models with strong people managing and supporting their centers in collaboration with local academic institutions. And with NPTI, we are planning to bring these local coordinators, to make them more than local coordinators, like business directors of their own centers, to proceed with their journey of self-sustainability, connect with private sector, and creating opportunities for trainings, but more than that, to help their countries in their solar implementation journey, with a very long-term relationship with through GCC that will provide them a center of excellence to keep up to date in terms of technologies also. So this is what about today. So what I propose now is to play the video about STAR-C, our program.
Amid a world grappling with inequality, unrest, and environmental crises, solar energy emerges as the most abundant and democratic solution. Yet, the energy transition needs more than panels and policies. It demands people. People with skills, with knowledge, with hope.
The STAR-C training program helped me gain new technical skills, how to design, installation, and operate these systems, and how they can support rural and off-grid communities.
I already established my own company after I started this training.
I also recommend this program to those around me that they need to reduce their electricity bill.
The training helps us to collaborate, especially for the private sector and the government-owned sectors, because there is a gap.
In our organization, if there is no power supply, we use DG. After this training, what I learned is, in case of DG, we use the solar mini-grid apps as our backup power.
I believe STAR-C will benefit the community by giving awareness. It will give additional working space for the professionals.
The International Solar Alliance is a coalition of ambition, bringing nations together to light up the world with clean energy. STAR-C is our answer to both. STAR-C are hubs of expertise, training, and transformation. STAR-Cs are not just training individuals, they are building ecosystems, connecting knowledge, jobs, and opportunity. With STAR-C, we're finding the way. Together, the first STAR centers are now shining in Bangladesh, Cuba, Ethiopia, Kiribati, Somalia, Bhutan, Cameroon, Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, Ghana. STAR centers help nations raise professional standards, create a skilled solar workforce, integrate solar into development, and build strong information systems. But STAR-C changes the narrative, making solar a solution for everyone. ISA's latest offering, the Global Capability Center GCC, will take the STAR-Cs to the next level, build an ecosystem to connect knowledge, jobs, and opportunity.
The Global Capability Center for Solar, or GCC, based out of India. It is not just a center. This is a global hub for solar excellence. A hub connecting national centers of excellence that we call StarSeas, and an ecosystem for fostering innovation, capacity building, and global cooperation. Together, through the Solar GCC, the sun will rise for all.
With the support of Europe and global partners, StarSea is scaling up. And that's the point. With StarSea, the power to change the world is no longer a dream. It's a plan in motion. The future of clean energy is about more than electrons. StarSea is not just powering homes. It is empowering lives.
Thank you very much. So I would like to hand over now to Mr. Benjamin Clark to start the discussion. Thank you very much, Benjamin, to accept our invitation for the moderation.
Thanks very much, and it's a real pleasure to be here with you all for the second time. I was moderating this discussion last year as well. So, obviously, as part of ICE's change to a model of international cooperation that looks to break down silos, enhance coordination with governments, the organisation is also reimagining its StarSea centres, as you saw on the video there, into regional knowledge and capacity building hubs, coordinated by this central GCC in India. The integrated model of StarSea and the proposed GCC aim to provide solutions to issues such as skill shortages, policy uncertainty, enterprise development, and weak institutional frameworks. So today I'm joined by, I think, 6 speakers, but there might be some who are not online or are not present. So as I call your names out, can you please give me a wave just so I know who you are and who I'm addressing the questions to? So first of all, we have Felipe Saliba, Chief of Unit, Knowledge, Management and Innovation Director at the ISA. We have Dr. Rangam Banerjee, Director of Indian Institute of Technology in Delhi. Or maybe we don't have Dr. Ranjan. Then we've got Dr. Tripta Thakur, DG National Power Training Institute. I can see you online there. Thank you. And Bright Berthold, CEO of the Renewables Academy. Hi. And Martin Lugmeyer, Industrial Development Expert. Great. This makes it very easy. Okay, but Martin, glad that you're sitting next to me because my first series of questions, I want to cast the net quite wide and look at kind of UNIDO's experience and ask you really what are the most significant barriers to skills development in the renewable energy sector and how can those be tackled to support the energy transition in developing countries?
Yeah, basically, I think you heard the introduction of Christopher. Now, just to say a few words about UNIDO also. Now, we entering the space through the private sector lens, basically, no, because we are an UN agency with the mandate to promote inclusive and sustainable industrial development, and sustainable energy comes in with particularly also with the sustainability element. So on the one hand, we are focused on greening industry and industrial processes through renewables, energy efficiency, industrial energy efficiency. On the other hand, also we have a strong focus on building a green industry, including a solar energy industry. Now, solar is part of the entire menu of technologies which we are having. And now building this solar industry, our clients are the countries in the global south. So because you were mentioning the barriers in most regions are the same, but it just they are solved to a different level of magnitude in the different regions. And so really you need a tailored approach. This is also our approach to it, because you cannot have blueprints, because you have some regions which are quite advanced addressing those barriers for capacity building, and then you go to the LDCs, to the least developed countries or the small island developing states which they have their unique challenges, like also brain drain, for example. You can train people, but then afterwards some time, for example, in the islands, they are gone. Also, a big challenge is that you don't have the institutions sometimes in place. I personally work, for example, a lot in the LDCs and small island developing states. I can give you two examples, Guinea-Bissau and Sao Tome and Principe, two LDCs and small island developing states, according to the category of the UN. And there even you have no electric engineering department in universities. So this is with what you're confronted. You have many small island states which don't have their own universities, but they have their university, basically a regional university they can attend. But then here we are on the high level of education. We also need, because it's good to work on university level, but there are many barriers when it comes, and I think the StarSeas has also this focus on when it comes to the practical skills. So we are more on the vocational training part, right? Which is a particular challenge in many low-income developing countries, and I think there's a lot we need to work. A particular challenge which I want to highlight, and it was highlighted also by Christophe, but also by Philippe already, and that is the long-term institution building. It's very important that we strengthen regions that they can help themselves in the long term. So not just doing trainings, one-off training and consultants coming maybe and then doing trainings and then gone, no? But looking at more sustainable approaches like train-the-trainers approaches, but also building and strengthening local institutions like the StarSea centers now, no? Which become a hub for training. I personally am coordinate a network, which was also mentioned by Christophe. It's the Global Network of Regional Sustainable Energy Centers, which covers now the entire Global South, where we worked with the regional economic communities to establish that they have their own dedicated agencies to promote renewable energy and energy efficiency. This covers now the entire African continent. We intend to strengthen this collaboration also between the national StarSea centers with the regional level, because also the regional level is a barrier, but would be an accelerator, because once again, what we need to strengthen, we're thinking about the solar energy market. The market has a demand and a supply side. So there was a lot of focus in the past in the Global South on creating demand, putting policy in place, targets, let's go. The reality, in reality, the private sector is not there to supply those solutions very often. And we're thinking now of a different magnitude of investment which is needed. We're now staying at, I think, 500 million of investment, right, in renewables per year, right? And we should be at 1.5 trillion investment in renewables per year, I think, to achieve the targets. Most of it should go into developing countries, but what goes there into Africa is 1%. So if you want to take this seriously, we scale up the next year's investments in renewables and solar. But is the absorption capacity here? It's not here. Because the private sector, you need, and that is our emphasis also, you need to strengthen the supply side. So we're speaking about creating incentives on policy regulatory frameworks, incentivizing companies that you get tax holidays if you create a solar company and so on. We need more insurance also for investments, improving the frameworks for that. We need quality infrastructure. So we hear a very important element, and the weakness is that you sometimes have no standards, right, for equipment or for certified services, for example, is a major barrier, because we know that from statistics, 50% of malfunctioning PV systems in the Global South come because of wrong installation. So you need to, and this again attached to capacity building, right? Then we need entrepreneurship innovation. So we need more incubation acceleration programs to strengthen young entrepreneurs to go into sector. I will leave it for now, but that I would see. These are one of the many barriers, I would say.
I was going to say, I think we could probably spin this out for about 3 hours and not reach the end of it. But actually, before we kind of zoom in on sort of things like partnerships with academia and so on and so forth, there's one more question that I wanted to ask you, which was, okay, there's a lot of kind of taxonomies of green jobs at national level all around the EU and so on and so forth, but how, on an international level and through the work that UNIDO is doing, are you proposing to measure the impact of green jobs initiatives in the solar sector? You know, what sort of metrics are you considering, and what is a green job? And yeah.
I mean, green job is a very broad term, no? I think.
Right.
Because green jobs. So once again, going back to that definitions now. So you are greening the industry by basically you are mainstreaming renewables, energy efficiency, and I also would like to advocate for a more integrative approach, because we're not talking just about energy. We're talking about circular economy practice. We're talking about raw material efficiency. So it's a very broad water efficiency and so on. It's a very broad agenda, and all this is green. Is basically also a green job, no? So the one thing is you mainstream those renewables into other industrial sectors, and that creates already green jobs. Because those sectors become also green manufacturing in the end, no? And then you have the second stream where you have the green jobs, is that you're really creating clean tech industries now in the global south. So you're helping companies to do electric battery production. You're helping companies to be part of the value chain of solar assembly. Being part of operation installation, then being also a very interesting sector is then what happens afterwards with the batteries. And it's not something to do only with PV, it has something to do with the electric mobility revolution, which is in the moment happening also in Africa. Because it's a nice business, it's also a new business which is being created by dealing with the battery and the electrical waste what you have at the end of that life cycle. And now, so basically these two streams you would need to measure.
Yeah.
But it's difficult to measure because you can measure it in primary jobs and secondary jobs. So primary jobs by creating jobs in the solar industry, but then you have secondary jobs which are attached as auxiliary to those.
Yeah.
But to measure that, it will be interesting to do so. But in the IRENA, for example, is trying to do that. But I think it needs still some refinement and thinking how you measure that in future.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's a bit of a murky science at the moment. But
green job is very broad. No, it's a very broad area. It's not just energy. It's also
everything.
So if you're going to bioenergy, for example, the most jobs you don't have with bioenergy itself. You have we have it with getting, for example, the bio waste, the treatment. Transport.
Yeah. No, exactly. Sorry, Dr. De Keur, I'd like to come to you now. So, obviously, NPTI has kind of been there and done it before enormously successfully. So, based on that success, what kind of lessons learned do you have to impart to make the Star Seas more sustainable in the long term?
Yeah, thank you very much. Am I audible? Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I'm very happy to see that we are working towards the energy transition and especially promoting solar, which is abundantly available and very useful way for producing electricity. As you mentioned that NPTI, we have been successful for creating the infrastructure and the structure. We are self-sustainable. Although we are the apex body for Ministry of Power with the 11 centers across India, but we are self-sustainable and we are doing interactions with the private player. We are imparting training and capacity building. So I'm very happy to see what Star Sea is developing, and what is their vision is to become the self-sustainable, and they really want to become the center for excellence for providing training and capacity building, and also providing hand-holding for the future generation to come up in this area. So I'm very happy that they can design the course curriculum, which are going to help the local economy, involvement of the local people, providing training and capacity building and hand-holding of the local people along with the academic institution, along with the private player. This will make them sustainable in future. So I'm really very, very happy to be associated through ISA to Star C Center for giving any kind of support in terms of capacity building, in terms of development of the course curriculum, modules, hand-holding of the Star C centers. Through online also we can do wonderful tasks as I am connected with you online, and we are seeing that how e-platforms are helping the training and capacity building. So I can also NPTI can also take part for jointly providing certification and programs for the Star C Center for any specific need. Any other support needed for Stasi, NPTI is very much happy because we have a lot of experience, especially in the renewable energy and especially in the solar. Because in India, we have done a lot of training program which are for the development of solar. Presently, the India is doing a very ambitious program for which is known as a PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana. I will translate that. This is Prime Minister made electricity through solar in the rooftop throughout the households. So very big target, very big number. And for this collaboration, the present DISCOM also need to be incorporated. They also need to be taken into confidence so that those who are consumer who are drawing electricity from their solar rooftop in the daytime, but in the evening time they are connected with the DISCOMs. So DISCOM also need to work in collaboration with this scheme. So NPTI is providing training and capacity building throughout India for distribution companies so that they can be ally for this scheme. We are also doing a lot of training program which are directly related with solar. Like earlier, we have done Surya Mitra scheme, which is translated in English as a solar friend, where we have given the training for solar installation. We are also training our engineers dedicatedly for 1 year as a postgraduate diploma program in renewable energy along with Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. And also we are doing a lot of customized program as the need arise. And because of this solar, there is a lot of grid integration issues also. So we are working and providing training very closely to the system operator for especially for RE System Management Center, REMC, which are working across India. So, and also we are very much into the data analytics for the power sector, green hydrogen, and the carbon markets in India. So I am really feeling very, very proud to be associated to ISA, especially for handholding the Star C Center, which is very ambitious program, but very, very fruitful program for making the center for excellence across the world. And this center of excellence will provide training and capacity building and handholding of the local people so that they will be involved for the future expansion of solar energy in their country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Thicker. And there's a huge amount that MPTI is doing already and kind of responding to the evolving needs of the industry. So, Bright, I'd like to turn to you because we've also heard a lot from the NPTI perspective of how potential academic collaborations could work. But from your perspective, these kind of academic and international collaborations with Star C, how can they help to actually co-develop a curricula that responds in a kind of active way to the needs of industry?
Okay. So several of the Star C centers, they're already hosted within universities, and I think this is a really great starting point. because in universities, so also all the electrical engineers who are there in the universities, they should also use the equipment of Star C centers. Yeah, and even where Star C centers so far are not at universities, I think the national focal points should somehow get in touch with the ministries of higher education and bring these students to use the Star C centers. Because now there is an equipment in these centers which is mostly not at universities. Yeah. So for practical training, and this also refers to your first question, what is oftentimes missing, what is like the challenges. And this is in fact that many universities cannot give practical training because simply they have not the equipment. And this is something that now Star C centers can provide. And so even if this equipment for practical trainings is not at the universities, students could go there and just rent these Star C centers and the equipment to make the practical trainings. Of course, also this means that the professors doing so, or let's say the trainers, they need to be capable to use this training equipment for practical trainings. Yeah, but this can be done within a trainer-trainer approach. But this is what is oftentimes missing. Really, let's say this kind of like hands-on practical trainings to install and disassemble the systems. Also, I think Star C Center can give or should give impulses not only to focus on technical aspects and installation, but of course also on economic aspects. Yeah. Maybe not so much for the technicians level, but at least for the engineers level or for economists level, Star C centers should have the capability to teach in economics of different applications and niche markets, and really enable potential business people, companies, startups to start doing business in solar, to really see where the different niches in the market, how they can make offers and also convince clients so they purchase the systems. Yeah. I see not only the technical dimension of the Star C centers, but also the economic dimension, and encourage Star C centers a lot to really offer both. Yeah. And also, as the doctor from MPTI said, it's really important to also think about the engineers and not just about the technicians. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's crucial to pick up on what you said on that. Yeah, the technical aspect needs to be there, but equally the economic aspect is hugely important as well, and I couldn't agree more. So Felipe, how do you see that? Because obviously ISA is looking to strengthen the partnerships with academia. We've got NPTI here and RENAC as well. Do you take what they've said, and do you see that as the main goal of this collaboration, or is there extra bits for ISA, or how do you see these sort of partnerships evolving?
I share completely what they said. First of all, thank you. I think it's exactly our vision. You know, we have the target of opening 50 Star centers by 2030, which is great. When we talk about a gap around 4 million jobs in solar, specifically 7 million in renewables, and around 40% will be in solar energy globally. When you talk about 1,600,000 only in Africa for solar rooftops, we see that this target of 50 centers by 2030 will help to fill this gap, but it's not enough. First thing. So about this, our vision to harmonize and working with UNIDO on that. UNIDO has already, and other institutions, centers area, I think it's important to connect the dots. I think there is a big wave of creating centers, capacity building, trainings that are a little bit spread around. I think to strengthening the institutional collaborations in the level of connecting dots through institutions, it's one aspect. Second is the sustainability that we insist. The perspective from ISA on the 50 centers target, it's great. Our first center is in Ethiopia. They will complete 2 years very soon. In our process, ISA, we provide 2 years of financing support, starting by creating a partnership with local institutions, bringing equipment, trainings, and then transferring funds for the centers to promote their own trainings. There is a big question mark about what happens after 2 years with that. Does it make sense have these 50 centers as target with the risk of not only closing their centers behind, we don't know yet, but what you're doing is mitigating the risk of happening. When I discussed with a lot of people all agree that there is something stronger to be done. So help them to be self-sustainable, using example like in NPTI, that with strong leadership to make local and with autonomy partnership with private sector, local government. It's not only to get funds from government to maintain, but to use them as customers to use the centers. So it's necessary leadership. And also the centers are seen not only as providing trainings, it's more than that. We discuss about testing and standardization. Martin was saying about the importance of, for these countries, for quality standards. So the centers are also designed to be credited to make certification of solar-related technologies. And currently, to be very transparent, no center developed this function. They are seen like training centers, which is good, but we have much more to do. We spoke about economic development, opening space for incubation is another function that must be developed. But in 2 years is too short to do. What we expect to do is not that in 2 years we don't stop, we keep funding. It's to accelerate their learning, to manage their journey by themselves with support of ISA and our institutional development. So the first thing, I think, is connect the dots with global partners, like UNIDO. Second, strengthening the leadership to be self-handled by the country and the STAR Center, with a strong network of local coordinators. And third is how to keep them up to date in terms of innovation and technology. So this is also another important part, is to give to the centers the autonomy to provide trainings in a very agile way, the training of trainers. So this is the third pillar that we believe that in the first 2 years of existence of these STAR centers, it's very important to invest. In our current process, it can become very expensive to make RFPs, to hire an agency to do one training specific that will train 20 people. We have to scale up and give the possibility to the centers to manage by themselves their offer of trainings.
completely agree in terms of, yes, it's important in the first 2 years to make sure there's consistent support there, but then ultimately it's over to the centres themselves to manage based on what local needs are, what the needs of industry are, and so on and so forth. And kind of, because I think we've only got, we've got about 10 minutes left. So to ask a question to the full floor that was based on what Felipe was saying just there, maybe we can start with Martin. So from your experience, these kind of partnerships between public institutions like StarC and private training providers and the private sector that are maybe hiring some of these people who have been trained, how should this be structured? What is the best way, the silver bullet, to make it, to maximize the impact in workforce development and skills development as well?
I think it's very often the missing link, no? That you have, first of all, you have the public sector, which in quite a number of developing countries is not talking very much to the private sector. So they are somehow, they do the legislation there. And there's the private sector, but even they don't ask the private sector what is needed to develop their business. No? So this is a big challenge. On the other hand, then you have also the educational system, and even on the university level, which has excellent programs on engineering, but also those programs, like you mentioned, are not tailored to the private sector. So they're very theoretical sometimes, and also not tailored to the needs of private companies. And basically, I think they're very proven concepts from which UNIDO works also on industrial agglomeration theories, we say, no? So basically, to become more competitive, you work with industrial agglomeration concepts like clusters, for example. And that is something, for example, a very interesting concept to bring everybody on a table. I feel when we are here in Europe, no, in Europe you have a very strong focus on cluster building, clean tech clusters, for example, no. And what do this? Because also Europe has still maybe sometimes a similar problem to bring all these players on the table. Yeah. So you build up a cluster. This is something I think what we envisage also maybe in a next step for those centers. They could become something like a cluster where they bring together the main players of the ecosystems, which is science. Now what you need, applied science, particularly for innovation, to bring together the private sector, entrepreneurs, the bigger corporates, public institutions, and finally the financiers. So this is how the clean tech clusters, for example, in Europe are functioning. And that is an excellent model which could be also applied by those national centers, because most of the countries where StarC is working don't have such clusters. Clean tech clusters don't exist. It's a concept which does not exist in many lower income countries. And this is something what we as UNIDO, because you asked, we have particular programs on that to promote entrepreneurship through acceleration, incubation, and also such clusters. And that I think is a very interesting model to bridge this gap between those players, because you get suddenly, you have a cluster hub, let's say, a management team, like we have it in Europe, in Austria, for example, we have clean tech clusters also. And this clean tech team provides services to all those players to work together, new innovations, or like you have a maker space, they get for free some space to test. They get equipment, laboratories, what you have already purchased now to test prototyping. You might develop a joint label suddenly for the solar industry of that specific country, no? Yeah. You might even give you might develop together now suddenly, private sector, public sector, a joint strategy on which segments you think you could localize, and there's a job potential and revenue potential. Yeah. So it's maybe not producing modules because it's too advanced, but maybe assembling battery, treatment of batteries, and then also dealing with certification. Then suddenly, because certification is very expensive, no? Some in the islands, for example, good example is Barbados. I worked also in Barbados. Barbados, not many know, is one of the countries with the highest solar thermal penetration per capita worldwide. Interesting, an island. and this is produced by local companies. So it's fully served by local companies which emerged in the 80s already. And those companies, they are not certified. So in the moment they cannot export. And those companies cannot, for example, export to Europe or somewhere, or even to other islands sometimes, because they use the French certification standards, because of that hindrance. And those companies say it's very expensive to pay the certification. So by bringing certification centers maybe on regional level to those regions, ECOWAS, SADC in Africa, for example, you bring also down this cost, and the cluster can help those companies jointly working together to get those certifications.
I think the idea of industrial clusters is hugely important, and certainly, well, something we're very familiar with in Europe, but yeah, is also quite a replicable idea elsewhere. Dr. Thakur, that beyond kind of these clusters, how do you see this kind of tripartite partnership between public institutions, private training providers, and the private sector itself? How can that be maximized?
Yeah. So actually, we must remember that we are focusing StarC Center for developing nation. And even in India, we are facing a huge problem of industry and in academic institution. Whatever engineers or whatever sub-engineers we are producing, they are not as per the industry need. They are lacking skilling, which is required by the industry. So industry people are always telling to the academic institution that we want skilled people, and these are our skill. So if this StarC centers will provide this linkage where the industry are getting the skilled people, and these people who are trained are getting jobs, because the engineers are not getting jobs, sub-engineers are not getting job, because they are not trained as per the demand of industry. So I think this StarC Center, with collaboration with the private players, with the collaboration of academic institution, and they will focus on the demand of industry. So definitely this synergy will work, and not only this will strengthen the opportunity for getting job, but also will strengthen what industry is looking forward. Let me give one example. In India, we want to go massively on the solar installation, but the solar installers are not available. The people who will do the handholding are not available. The problem solving skill for the solar installation, that people are not available. The skilled people are really the need of the demand, because as mentioned by Philippia, there is a huge demand is coming in this sector for the skilled people. Also, we must focus that we are talking about the developing nation. So it is always better if we involve their academia, if we involve their private players, and if we involve their industry. So skilled manpower is, if it is available, and as it is mentioned that there is a need for actually training of the trainers. So we can, if we will train the trainer in a proper way, they will impart the training in a much effective way. So this is the way we have to work together, and I'm very sure that if we will have this kind of a strategy where we involve all the stakeholders through StarC Center, this will give win-to-win situation to everyone.
Thank you so much. And I completely agree that the skills developed have to be the right ones. And I want to reassure you as well that we are completely lacking installers in Europe as well. It's not just India, but it's something that we all need to work on, and we all need to work on together. So actually, before I come to you, Bright, there was a comment over here that you would like to add.
Yes, no, thank you very much. And I would like to complement what our colleague in India and the colleague from AISA and others have said on practical example. I was based in Senegal. I was covering the Gambia also and other countries. But I can give you two examples. And I would like to say that the StarC approach is the good one. We need, of course, to include by design the work with the private sector. Give you an example. In the Gambia, we had a project funded by the Global Environment Facility, and then based on a previous program of the EU that has trained young women to not only build the solar plants, but also are able to make the calculations to exactly put all together the project of a solar panel. And they have installed the biggest, installation in the Gambia. So, of course, the young lady before to be trained, families didn't let them, but then at some point they became like leaders in this, because after the first project, we came with our project, so they had good jobs, new jobs, green jobs, and then maybe what was lacking, and this is something that we could correct in this Star C project, it's from the start, from the design, think already to involve the private sector from the design part, because then what will create the local job is because you will have a market, you have private sector will come, and our colleagues from India, she indicated they want to deploy, but we don't find people to install those solar panels. So you need to have this market and training that is included in a market. A second example, in Senegal, we have helped the government to establish an industrial park, I would say an industrial cluster. So then you have agglomeration, 20 companies, and through contribution from the French government, together with a private investment, we could install a solar plant to provide a part of the electricity of the industrial parks. And that the good thing is that at the same time, establishing the system, we could measure the energy needs and also put in place a MRV system, what you call measurement, reporting, verification in the framework of the Paris Agreement. So it's important. But also you can really have, and this is supported then by the private sector, because from the start, this solar center has been made to fill the needs of the private companies, and you have this good interaction. And there, of course, I see that there will be already a Star C program in Senegal. It will be important because the needs are there, and we need really to deploy this and the training, but also really from the start, from the design, working with the private sector. Thank you.
And I think that's a hugely important point, including all of these actors in the design stage. But Bright, from your perspective, this tripartite partnership. So we've had clusters, the skills being developed being the right ones, the training of trainers aspect and the involving the private sector from the design stage. I'm sorry if that's taken all the bullet points off your list, but if you have one or two more thoughts to share just on how that tripartite partnership can maximize its value to the industry and jobs creation as well.
So, if the Star C centers are placed in universities, yeah, or even if not, then it can be organized that, for example, for the master thesis, there can be applied research together with the companies which are there. Yeah, there's always topics. If there is some equipment, and there will be some equipment at the Star C centers, then you can always make applied research. You can test the modules, you can test the yield, you can test software monitoring systems, and so on. Yeah. So, and then by also organizing internships with the industry. Yeah. So the industry, well, or the, let's say, private sector, let's call it like that, a bit more broader, also installation companies, then they can see, well, which students are really the good ones, yeah, and who bring like the right capabilities. So with this kind of connection with universities and private sector, I think there's many opportunities for Star C to work closely with private sector, but also Star C could offer tailored trainings for private sector companies, for installation companies, yeah, for example. So they can do courses on well, installation of systems or monitoring of systems. And I mean, this doesn't need to be monthly long trainings. I mean, like 3, 4, 5 days, you can do a lot. already, yeah, and also in smaller portions. Because if it's too long, then again, private sector will not send anybody. Yeah, then it goes too long again. Yeah, so, but this is the beauty now of Star C centers in many countries, that well, they can make digestible portions, offer digestible portions of trainings to the private sector also.
I think that's interesting because we were talking about sustainability earlier, and if we're talking sustainability, essentially offering trainings that are made to fit for certain companies is a great way of making them pay to do it.
I want to add one comment. When it comes to, let's say, the public sector, I think also Star C centers have a very important function. Many countries, a lot of, let's say, spendings for electricity bill from public sectors are existing, yeah? And I could imagine that Star C centers also, they train on also a bit like more energy auditing, energy consumption, but also consult communities and public sector how they could save energy consumption, but also how they can produce electricity or hot water for hospitals and so on. So I think this would be like a bit next step more for the Star C centers to really skill local consultants on energy efficiency and also renewable energy generation, with the objective to bring down the electricity bills from the communities.
And I completely agree there, because obviously the cheapest and cleanest watt that you will get is the watt that you don't use. So, Felipe, obviously we've got a list of fairly concrete actions actually that Star C can do immediately. Let's say, okay, it might not be quick, but it can do kind of immediately. Just to run through them, so look to make industrial clusters, ensure that skills developed are the right ones, training of trainers, involve private sector from the design stage, applied research with universities, internships where private sector can kind of try before you buy, tailored trainings for the private sector as a way of improving sustainability, and training and consulting on energy efficiency as well. Just to wrap up this discussion, what are your thoughts on that particular list? And is there anything you'd want to add from there? Are there any things that can be done immediately?
I think the discussions were great. I think we covered mostly the points. I would like to highlight this the private sector from design. You know, they start here as a concept. It covers about everything. I will come back to the strengthening and the sustainability and the self-sustainable model with clear business model that is applicable. Because on the paper, they are supposed to do that already. The point is how to put that in practice, make the action and make them. And it's very difficult from Europe or from Delhi to ensure their daily work. So from the list, what I would like to reinforce, not maybe to add, is the importance of the local leadership. Yeah. Someone looking at the activities of the Star Centers. It's exponential, the benefits. Whatever, doing partnership with private sectors, with government also. We invest an important amount. Well, let's say it's from our donors. And I say Denmark, France, and Italy coming also to help us very soon. In European Union, it's there is an engagement from the public sector. When I'm connecting with the model of NPTI. Correct if I'm wrong, Dr. Thakur. Initially, I think 50 years ago or more, NPTI was created with the help of government of India. It was like an Star C, but they became self-sustainable. So we look at that as a model for the Star Center. But today, the government of India, every single professional that is going to work in the renewable sector in the government, they must pass through a certification that is provided by NPTI. So there is no, the government is not paying salaries or the infrastructure. They are using the Star Center, which it belongs to themselves. So I think it's an important point. But to make it happen, we need and we must have strong leadership in the centers. And we have 2 years to be very practical. Not we discuss about several things, to empower what we call the Star C director, to make this business plan comprehensive and applicable. So this is all about what we are going to do, not everything. I would like also a final point about this private sector engagement. Yes, it should be part. It's also a little bit the chicken-egg situation. In some countries, the chicken-egg breaker is the Star Center, because we can say the private sector is not invested because you don't have capacity. You have people, workforce, and you don't have workforce because you don't have the investment. Somehow we have to break that cycle. But yes, it's important because at the end of the day, public, but it's mainly the private sector that will employ these people, and we will make partnerships with the local trainers for service providers. We don't expect that an international company or national company will be able to mainly if it's international investments from private sector, maybe companies from Europe invest in countries, they cannot expatriate people for those countries to work. It's not sustainable. So creating and incubating, developing local businesses to create partnerships. And it's a good way to expose the brands, the technology, the private sector through Star Center and vice versa. So I think it is a good point, but I strongly believe that also empowering people with knowledge, they find their way also to create markets. So I think that Star C by itself has this human potential and social impact, and we should not underestimate the capacity of people also to find their ways with knowledge.
No, I completely agree. Capital, much like electricity, follows the path of least resistance. And that brings us to a very neat conclusion of our panel discussion. So can I ask you to all put your hands together for the panelists, both here in the room and online. Thank you. And I'm afraid I've totally forgotten who I'm supposed to hand over to next.
We'll now hand it over to Mr. Paul-Martin, French secondary at the International Solar Alliance for the Future.
Thank you. Thank you very much, all of you. What a fruitful discussion. Also dynamic discussion. So I will try to summarize all what you have said in 3 points. First, sustainability. It is important. We can say it's mandatory to ensure capacity building action in the long term, not just in a short term. And by that way, we can create a network, a worldwide network of excellence in the country. And to reach that, it has been raised the importance of the local leadership. Second point, crucial importance of international partnership. Thanks to Dr. Katour, we have the example of NPTI success, and with working with NPTI, we can rely on their success because, as Felipe said, long time ago there was like a Star Center, and now it's very important technical center in India, and with sustainability. And of course, working with UNIDO. And I also take the opportunity of this we continue to develop more and more international partnership in Europe, in France, and also with INES. And the final point of this discussion is about what we are doing together, UNIDO, ISA, and academic institutions must be oriented through private sector to ensure the best impact for capacity building. And now, what we will do, next step. Two things about StarC and about global capability. So we are finalizing the setup of that project with UNIDO to work concretely on sustainability. We will focus on that for the next time, for the next month, and hopefully we will start this project in September. And about Global Capability Center and the link between STAR Center and Global Capability Center, we are working on that. And by the end of the year, we will have a model to ensure this link between this network of STAR Center and Global Capability Center. So now it's done. So thank you very much, and see you soon.
Micro is not on. Okay, it is now. Okay. So thank you very much for the inspiring conversation. And now we would not like to stand between yourself and lunch. So we will see you later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.